Hi, what's up? I'm Luka. I'm a trans guy, which means that I was born in a female body and I didn't enjoy that very much. So at some point in my life, I decided to come out and transition, and now I'm here living my life as a guy. That sounds very simple, but it really wasn't. Before I came out, I had so many doubts and questions in my mind, and I really wasn't sure about anything. It was really overwhelming, and it took me years to admit to myself that I'm actually trans. So today I want to talk about my inner coming out process and kind of my journey of realizing that I'm trans. I also asked you guys on Instagram what content you want to see more of this year, and a lot of people said they want to hear more about my process of finding out I was trans, because I guess I talk a lot about my transition in general, and I kind of skip over the how I actually realized it part, or I just like shorten it to 2 sentences, which doesn't do it justice because it was a very long process. And I remember watching these kinds of videos when I was actually in the process of figuring it out myself, and I remember it being very helpful but also really frustrating sometimes, because I could always relate to some parts of other people's stories, but I could never really relate to the full experience, which of course it's normal because we're all different, but I just really wanted to find some trans guy that I could resonate with like 100%. Spoiler alert, I never did, but eventually I just picked like these random parts from different people's experiences, which was also fine. So I hope you can relate to some things that I say, but also don't worry if you can't relate to my full story, of course. So let's get into it. I think I'm gonna start by talking about my childhood a little bit, then my teenage years of denial, and then kind of my phase of actively questioning if I'm trans or not. Some people already know that trans when they're children. I didn't. At least I don't remember thinking about gender a lot when I was a kid. I guess I was always more of a tomboy, but that wasn't an active decision I made. That was just kind of my personality, and I didn't really question it. Also, my parents never tried forcing these stereotypical gender roles on me. I was just being a little tomboy and nobody really cared. You can see it on pictures, and my mom also told me, but I think I was like a stereotypical girly girl until I was like 4 maybe. So there are all these pictures of me in kindergarten wearing dresses and girly stuff, and then I just completely stopped, and nobody really knows why. I don't really remember, but I guess I just started dressing the way I wanted. I'm not totally sure about this, but I think also the other girls in my environment at the time weren't particularly girly girls either, so it was just really not special that I started dressing like a boy. And I remember when I was like 5 or 6 or 7, there was this one girl, and she cut off all her hair and started dressing really masculine, and I remember being really impressed by that and kind of feeling inspired to do the same thing. I didn't cut my hair, but I think I copied her clothing style a little bit. So yeah, my childhood was actually not that interesting. It was actually pretty nice, I would say, because I wasn't confronted with all these boxes and kind of like society's expectations yet. And I remember as I was getting older, people started finding it weird that I was dressing like a boy. Other kids started asking me like, hey, are you a boy or a girl? Like, it was something that really mattered to people, and it was kind of weird that I didn't fit in, and it progressively got worse as I got older. This is maybe 10 to 12 now, but basically all the girls around me started changing and just caring more about things like looking pretty, and I didn't really mind that at first because I was still hanging out with boys. I was kind of like part of the boys. Like whenever we played a game or something, I was always asking if I could be part of the boys team, and at some point that also shifted because the boys started like not wanting me as part of their team anymore, and they started being interested in girls who were kind of more feminine, and that was just really fucking disappointing. But don't worry, it gets worse, because then there was puberty. Probably one of the worst times in my life, I would say. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Before puberty, it wasn't so bad that I was a girl because I could just wear male clothing and be fine with it. But then my body started changing, and these clothes didn't really fit me properly anymore. First of all, I started growing something on my chest, and that was really uncomfortable, and I tried to compensate by wearing really like baggy t-shirts or hoodies, but you can only do that for so long, and my hips also started getting wider, and jeans wouldn't properly fit me anymore, and it was a very frustrating experience. I really didn't want to wear a bra because I kind of like hated my chest, and I did this really weird thing, and I mentioned it in a TikTok, and more people than I thought were actually relating to it. Maybe it's a trans thing, I don't know, but basically I guess I started binding my chest by wearing a bathing suit. I think I just started wearing it to school on the days we had swimming class, so I wouldn't have to change in front of everyone, but then I kind of liked how it made my chest look flat, so I started wearing it on like other days as well. So I think on days where I was just feeling really dysphoric, I started wearing my bathing suit out and about. Like that was a totally normal thing to do. And my parents actually fucking knew about that, and they never said anything about it. What's up? I mean, they probably thought it was really weird, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure I was doing that for a year or so, and then I started wearing a bra, but yeah. Oh yeah, and then I also got my period, which was just fantastic. Honestly, I was just so disappointed the day I got it. Like, I was so sad. I think I just told my mom that I was sick and I couldn't go to school, and then I just stayed at home for the rest of my period, and I didn't tell anyone about it, not even my mom. And then I think she saw bloodstains somewhere, and then she confronted me about it. So yeah, that was that. Not a fun time. I guess puberty was also the time where I kind of started not being myself anymore, or just holding back important parts of myself because people didn't get it. People didn't want to get it. And I started getting kind of like chubby and gaining a lot of weight during that time period because I was eating all my feelings because I was sad. And I never knew why, because I just assumed everyone hated being in a girl's body or something like that. I'm sure everybody hates their chest. It's just so inconvenient, right? Doesn't everyone kind of hate their period? I must have known about trans people at this point, but not really. I definitely didn't know about trans people as a kid, but I must have seen one of those documentaries as a teenager. It was probably about that Olympics guy. I forgot his name. I'm sorry. This German guy, I think he was a runner or something like that in the Olympics, and then he transitioned, I think, after his career was over, but I'm not sure about anything. And I think I was like, oh yeah, I would like to be a guy, but nah, that's too weird, because I'm not weird, I'm normal, right? Basically, the whole discourse about trans people at that point was either non-existent or it was like, kind of like, it's kind of weird. We're not discriminating, of course, but kind of weird, yeah. Anyways, then I was like 18, 19, the summer after I finished high school, and I felt free from society's constraints, and I found out I was bisexual. Of course, gender and sexuality are two different things, but I think it was still an important moment for my kind of coming out journey. I think I always found girls attractive, but I was very much in denial about it. And whenever I had a crush on a guy, I was like, whew, thank God, because it was reassuring me that I was straight indeed. I wasn't straight, but yeah, I was also not a lesbian. I was definitely bisexual. Yeah, I actually really didn't like the word lesbian. I always preferred saying I like girls, or I don't know, I'm gay. So yeah, summer after high school, baby Luka goes traveling with one of his best friends from high school, and at one of the hostels we were staying in Canada, there was this older woman. She wasn't that old, she was like in her 30s, but I was like 19, 18, so it was old for me. And she was open about being lesbian, so I felt comfortable coming out to her. And she was the first person I told that I like girls. That gave me so much confidence. And then I also moved away from my hometown to go to uni in a different city, and I kind of just started being my queer self for the first time in my life. And it was actually really tough in the beginning. It was really hard for me to make friends in the beginning and kind of like find my way and find my group of people around me. But uni was kind of like where I rediscovered myself. I started meeting more queer people and became more comfortable in my own sexuality as well. And that was the time when I finally started thinking about this whole trans thing. So I was like 19, 20, my first couple of years of uni, and I started watching trans YouTubers a lot. I think the first one I saw was by Puberty. I don't know if you guys remember him, but then I basically got sucked into the vortex and I couldn't run away anymore. At first I was just like, I'm just really interested in the topic. Then I was like, I can really relate to this. Then I was like, nah, I kind of hate being a girl, but I don't hate it that much. Yep, I was in denial. I was just looking for reasons why I can't be trans, so I didn't have to come out, because I was really scared of coming out as trans and what people might think of me. And I wasn't really sure if I was trans because, like I said, so many experiences I could relate to, but then other experiences I couldn't relate to. And I was worried that I wasn't trans enough because I didn't already know it as a kid, or because I wasn't super depressed and suicidal. Like, obviously I can't be trans. So basically what I did was like intensively watch trans videos, research about trans topics for like a while, and then I would push it away again for a couple of months and completely ignore it. And this back and forth thing was kind of going on for multiple years. And I remember at uni we were talking so much about like post-structuralism and like social constructs, and how gender is also a social construct basically. Like, there's no inherent quality to being a man or being a woman. We as a society kind of assign these meanings. Like, a really basic example would be the colors. Being a boy doesn't automatically make you like the color blue. It's stupid. But yeah, I was even more confused by that because gender felt so fragile and it's not tangible, it's not real, it just didn't make sense to me. And I also remember hearing about the term non-binary for the first time, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna self-identify as non-binary now because I have enough. Gender is confusing me, I am so lost. So I kind of just self-identified as non-binary. I didn't actually tell anyone about it. And I think throughout the years while I was questioning my gender, so that was like 19 to 23 maybe, I was just kind of like transitioning really slowly without really being aware of it. I kind of started experimenting with different clothing styles. When I was 20, I just cut my hair short. And I really liked how it made me look like a boy sometimes. Like sometimes strangers would think I'm a boy, and that made me oddly happy. Eventually I also got myself a binder and I started researching new names. And this was all before I came out as trans. And there were always these little things that kind of made me go like, yeah, I'm probably trans. Like one time this person was asking me what my pronouns were, and I was so shocked. I was like, they know. So I was really mean and was like, yeah, of course, she, her, obviously. And I was always kind of hoping some other random person would go up to me and tell me that I'm trans, or see me and be like, yep, you're trans. So they would kind of do it for me and I wouldn't have to do it myself. Well, yeah, I had to do it myself, but that was one thought I had. Oh yeah, and I think that was like a year or half a year before I came out, I started losing weight actually. Because I told you that when I started puberty, I started gaining a lot of weight. Yeah, I kind of lost that weight again, and that was really eye-opening, because a lot of the body dysphoria I had, I was kind of like blaming that on being overweight and not on me being trans, if that makes sense. And then I lost the weight and suddenly I had no excuses anymore. And it also felt like I was taking back control of my body again. Like I was getting back in touch with myself, like physically as well as emotionally. And this is so cheesy, but when I was looking in the mirror, I could finally see myself as a boy, and clothes would fit me better again, and that gave me so much confidence. So I think shortly after that, I couldn't really hide it anymore. And I told my girlfriend at the time that I don't think I feel like a woman. I think I didn't tell people that I'm actually a trans guy until like a couple of months later. I kind of like the idea of being non-binary because it didn't put me into this box. It kind of gave me the freedom to explore my gender identity without any real constraints. I think it just took some time, and then I realized I just feel most comfortable being perceived as a guy, and I definitely also felt more comfortable in a guy's body. So I always knew that I hated my chest and I wanted to have top surgery. I wasn't totally sure about testosterone in the beginning, but I think I was just scared of changing and not being able to control it. So I definitely wanted to have a more masculine face and voice and body shape. So at some point I was like, you know what, I'm just a trans guy, it's whatever. That doesn't mean I don't still identify with being like non-binary at heart, because I still think that gender is this really weird construct. What does it even mean to feel like a man? I don't know. I definitely feel more comfortable as a man, but like, am I a man? I don't know, and I don't really care anymore. I'm just me, I'm Luka, people see me as a guy, and it's cool. I like dissecting all the nuances of my gender identity when I'm like drunk at 3 a.m. in the morning. So I hope you liked the video and it was a little bit helpful for you. If you have more questions, let me know, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.